Your mates. You're going to be teammates with.
You're mates with.
Yeah, I hope you're mates as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
You're going to be teammates with the 4-time world champion, Max Verstappen. Clearly a very talented driver.
Max Verstappen's new teammate. Let's see how he feels about being paired with the 4-time world champion in 2025.
How do you feel being teammates with him?
Honestly, I'm mostly excited for it. Just, the guy has literally won the last 4 world titles. He's the best in the world right now, and I get every session I get to see exactly what he's doing, all of his data, all of his I don't know. Obviously, everyone sees onboards anyway, but I get access to everything. I get to see exactly how he's doing it. So for me as a driver, obviously I know going in it's going to be very hard. There's going to be a lot of pressure. There's going to be very tough, and obviously he's going to be very tough to match in terms of pace. But in terms of development, for me, there's nobody better to learn from than him.
What's your personal relationship like?
I think he's pretty good. Yeah, he loves motorsports. So he was watching Super Formula sometimes. I'd be reserved. I'd come from Japan to a race, and he was like talking about the race I just had. And so he's always been like real nice. He's such a nice dude out of the car, like really really nice guy, and really down to earth and very normal. So
Isn't it fascinating how even the most competitive drivers recognize the importance of learning from the best? This mindset could be the key to unlocking a level of greatness we haven't seen yet. Do you think this kind of humility sets him apart from other up-and-coming drivers?
I'd say the relationship's good.
It's like the most sought-after seat in Formula One. It is really. And I know McLaren have been coming up, Ferrari are looking all right, but the Red Bull seat is like the most sought-after seat. So you're obviously very excited, but there's obviously a lot of pressure that comes around that.
It's also just special, the Red Bull seat, because for me personally, like I don't know about you guys, but I played the F1 games. Like F1 2010 came out when I was 8, and like that was like the first. That was at the age where I was getting serious in karts. I loved Formula One, like that was what I wanted to do, and that Vettel won, Red Bull won in 2010, and so like watching the championship, playing the game, I was always playing. I've said this like 3 times in the last 24 hours, but I'd play as Mark Webber to verse Sebastian Vettel and like race the Red Bull car and like fight for wins in the game, and that was like so sick. So even like when I became a junior, that was the craziest thing for me at that point, because obviously now you're on the pathway to F1, and I would go to Red Bull and walk in the reception and see all the trophies, and like there's a car on the wall when you walk into the reception, and it's got the current drivers on like their names on the car every year. And like I remember like looking at it thinking like, imagine if my name was like on that car, and it's just crazy to know that I'm representing that team now, team crazy. That I've been a part of now for so long behind the scenes, and it's crazy.
And it's like
the connection to Red Bull runs so deep here, from playing as their drivers in a game to walking into the factory as part of their legacy. That kind of passion and history can create a bond that fuels a driver's determination to succeed.
It's like it's the team that you've obviously loved as well, right? Like if you could have picked any team, it would have been Red Bull from the beginning.
So to be honest, when I had that Red Bull contract, we actually had a couple of other offers at the time from other junior teams, and I remember we sat down in F1, like other junior teams in F1 when I did the Toyota Racing Series, and I remember we had like a sit down with my guys from New Zealand about what the best option was and like what the smartest thing to do, and they were all like, there's pressure with Red Bull, it's very cutthroat, you got to be prepared for it, and I was just like, guys, it's like we're 100% doing Red Bull, like there's no other option here, like I don't care how good the deal is for somebody else, like it's Red Bull or nothing, So even when I was that age, it was a special thing to be a Red Bull driver. So even like yesterday with Christian, I feel like an idiot because I can't stop smiling. Like I'm just with him like in his office and I'm just smiling all the time. Like,
how inspiring is it to see a young driver like Lawson embrace the pressure that comes with being part of Red Bull, a team that's built champions like Max Verstappen? It's not just about having the fastest car, it's about thriving in one of the most demanding environments in F1. Max didn't just rise to the top by chance. He grew under this same system, learning to perform under immense expectations. Does Red Bull's ability to cultivate this mindset explain why they dominate the sport, year after year.
Yeah, it's funny.
You didn't do like the, straight from F2 into F1. There was a season, right? Or there was a couple of seasons gap.
Yeah, reserve. I was doing it for probably over 2 years now.
So there was a period of time when you maybe thought this would never have happened. F1. There's so many people that would love to be an F1 driver. What was it like in that moment?
Horrible, because all the way up, you always have another championship to go. So you're in F4, you got F3 next, and you're building the steps. Then you get to F2, and you're kind of at the last step. And then I went to, I'm doing reserve during F2, and I'm realizing there's actually no step after this. Like, it's now F1. And the F2 season, there was a time they signed Nick DeVries, and I was having a terrible F2 season at that point. And it turned around, and I had a really good end to the year, but by then everything was already done and sealed, and I lost the opportunity. I went into the next year going to Super Formula like, well, this is kind of my last shot. And the first part of that year, man, it wasn't looking like I was going to get a chance. So then I was like, for the first time in my whole life, because since I was 8 years old, somehow I've just always believed it would happen. And I think thanks to my parents being really supportive, and especially on the mindset, my dad was like, if you work hard enough for something, you can do anything you want to do. And coming from a family with like no backing, like they we couldn't afford to do anything other than karts, and even that was tough. So to have that mindset from that age, I was just lucky that I carried it all the way through. But it was probably last year that was the first time I was like, man, I might not do this. And then everything changed. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how belief and timing shape F1 careers? Lawson's resilience mirrors the grit Max showed early on. Would Max be the champion he is today without facing his own doubts?
And then we were in Vegas, and obviously at the time of Vegas, you had no idea that you would have this seat, right? And it was probably more in your head like, am I even going to have a seat next year? You never really know. So it's just suddenly come out of nowhere.
Yeah, even six months ago, I was reserve watching and hoping to get a chance again. And obviously I'd done my stint last year, but every race that goes on since I did my reserve stint is another race where people are starting to just forget, because people are very short-minded, short memory in Formula One. You really look at the last couple of races. You don't really look too far beyond that, past that. So my races last year are starting to come quite far in the distance, in the past. And I'm like, man, if this goes on much longer, people are just going to forget that I even did those races, and nobody's going to care anymore. The next guy's going to come up, because there's always more guys coming up. So yeah, it was 6 months ago. I wasn't even sure if I was going to get a shot in F1. Which is crazy to think now what's happening.
Mate, it's fucking crazy. And it's hard not to get like a bit emotional about it. Especially because it's not even me in the fucking seat, it's you. This is your life. It's going to change your life. It's going to change your family's life.
It's massive, man. It's massive. And like, that's why I think to everybody, it's just, yeah. To like I said, to come into F1, you come into F1 and you're basically trying to prove yourself to a top team, because you're never going to win a world championship in a midfield team. So you're there, and you're trying to do as much learning as you can and do development and try and prove yourself. But it's almost like you're in another championship kind of thing. You're not racing the Ferraris and the Mercedes and the Red Bulls, and you're in your own sort of division.
Trying to
feels
survive.
like just trying to survive, man. And then you get the chance to go to a team that actually is fighting. Max won the world championship this year. So, yeah, it's mad. It's mad.
Gonna change your life.
Yeah, man, it's mad.
Change your life when you're only 22.
Yeah, that's why it's still not real. Like it's gonna take time to settle in.
Isn't it wild how quickly fortunes can change in Formula One? 6 months ago, Lawson was wondering if he'd even have a future in F1, and now he's sitting in one of the most coveted seats, following in the footsteps of Max Verstappen.
100% fucking real.
I know, dude.
Like it's fucking happening. It's crazy.
I know.
It's crazy.
How will you spend the next 2-3 months? Is there anything you have to do that will make a huge difference? Obviously, you're already at F1, so it's not like fitness is really an issue. But what will you have to do different?
I think different, not much changes, honestly. The preparation's the same, so I'll keep training. I'll keep doing everything. I'll keep doing everything that I've been doing to prepare for F1, like I have been. And I guess is communicating with the team. Obviously, runs on off season, so there won't be that much communication. But it's just being fit and ready, honestly. And then when I come back in January to start doing the prep work with the team, making the most of that stuff, because obviously yeah, Melbourne's up first. I haven't driven Melbourne before, so I drove it in a V8 supercar last year. Like I did like 3 laps. But that's my experience at Melbourne, yeah.
You just did 160 laps in the test. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
mate.
we started the morning and I was like, I was watching the lap counter and we started and I had done quite a lot of laps already and I said to my engineer, I was like, I want to do the most laps out of anybody today. Like I just wanted, that's my goal for the day. So I had like a 20-minute lunch and just got straight back in the car and kept driving. And it was really cool. The only issue with it was we ended up doing like all our new soft tire stuff because we were doing so many laps. We ended up doing it so early in the day that it was still bright and sunny. And then it cooled off and got dark and we'd kind of run out of things to do. So we were just doing practice starts at the end of the day and like everyone was doing their new tire runs when it was dark and cold and setting lap times. And I was just out there doing practice starts, clocking more laps on the board.
And this was in the V Cup, right?
Yeah, it's my car.
So like, I wonder how different.
What does this relentless drive to do the most laps say about Lawson's approach to F1? Even when others are chasing times, he's focusing on experience and consistency. This could be the type of mindset that helps him thrive with Red Bull in the long run.
Car's gonna be.
Well, I've driven it.
You have driven it.
I've driven it. I've driven both RB19 and RB20 over the last couple of years, and it's very different. It's
Quick?
it's quick, but it's hard to drive.
Yeah.
So it's
It's hard to drive.
It's hard to drive. It's what we would call what I would call fronty. It's like it's a lot of front. Like it's very aggressive. It's very basically it's a car that takes confidence. To drive a Formula One car, the sort of entry speeds, what we call combined entry speeds, where you're just turning into a corner with loads of energy. You know, you're turning with lots of speed. You're not really slowing down before. It's like a combined entry, and really Formula One, that's like the most powerful thing about the cars is because of the downforce. You can combine so much speed into a corner, and the Red Bull, in my experience, is very aggressive in the way that it does it. It's quite, you have to have confidence to be able to do it because it's got a lot of front grip, and if you don't quite get it right, you lose the rear, and if you lose the rear in a Formula One car, you just lose all your confidence, basically.
Yeah.
I really wanted to ask you about this because you're friends with Alex Albon, right? He did an interview and how he spoke about the Red Bull and how the car drives. Yeah. He said Max has it on like 100% sensitivity almost. It's so hard to drive, you know, like a game. The cursor's all over the place. Is it actually like that?
That's
like up in the sensitivity and he's on max?
I thought it was a brilliant way to describe it, honestly, because that's one of the best ways you could describe it, because I guess if you have low sensitivity, you have a lot of control over what you're doing. It's not very aggressive. Everything's happening quite slowly but it's very stable. It's very smooth. It's not very aggressive. But when you have really high sensitivity, everything's all over the place. If you try to play Call of Duty and you're trying to shoot somebody and your cursor's going all over the place, like you have to be really accurate and sort of with what you're doing. And that's what it's like, to be honest, with the Red Bull. It's just very aggressive.
Does that work with your driving style, you think?
About to find out. I mean, I'd like to think so. I don't know. I don't know if I really believe in sort of driving styles like everybody. I think you can have a car that suits what you like out of a car. You know, you can be a person that likes a car with a lot of front grip, a lot of entry front, or you like a car that's really stable. That's fine. But you know, we're meant to be professionals. We're meant to be able to drive what we're given. So and maximize that. You know, we're meant to be able to adapt, and so obviously we'll find out. But
I totally get it because my last car was exactly the same.
Lots of front,
aggressive, fast.
Big hole in the engine.
What was the car?
The VW Golf.
Oh yeah,
So
they have a lot of front.
Once you get the back end out,
it's
ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
That's pretty much what it's like driving a Red Bull, I'd say.
Are you still going to race with number 30 next year?
Yeah, that's something that's also, you know, super exciting. It's the number that I started racing. Not actually very started with, but I was 8 years old when I started using number 30, so I carried that through with me all the way.
Liam Lawson's take on driving the Red Bull car really sheds light on the challenge it presents. His description of the car being fronty and requiring confidence to handle the aggressive front grip shows just how precise and intense it is to drive. The comparison to playing a game like Call of Duty, where everything feels amplified and fast-paced, makes it clear that Max Verstappen's success with the car is no accident. Max has mastered that sensitivity, turning what most would find unstable into an asset, something Lawson admires and will need to adapt to if he's going to push for a spot alongside him. The way Lawson approaches the challenge mirrors Max's mindset: adapt, extract the best from the car, and keep improving. It's about being versatile and making the car work for you, no matter how tricky it gets. The comparison to his old VW Golf, with the back end sliding out, is a relatable reminder that even at the highest level, racing is about handling the car's limits, something Max does so effortlessly.